Greetings and welcome everybody to the Trigger Warning Talk podcast. That's right, the Trigger Warning Talk podcast, all 4 words. We're streaming internationally on 14 plus platforms. You can listen to these interviews on any of your favorite podcast platforms, and you can watch for free also in 2 places, Spotify and our YouTube channel, which is our company name channel, Penton Pending Consulting Solutions LLC. I'm your fire medic CEO host, LP, back for another banger. We got a good interview today with my friend, one of my new partners, one of my fellow ACES ambassadors.
Yes.
Let me introduce you very properly. This is Lisa May LeBlanc. She is an ACES ambassador, ministry leader, blogger, host of a weekly Instagram live called Lattes with Lisa, and author of The Ninth Child. Her book is a memoir and is shortlisted for an award from the Word Guild. You can find it at her website, which is, there's a QR code right above my head, and I'll have her link in the show notes. Her website is lisamayleblanc.com, and it's available on Audible. She lives in Calgary, not Calgary. Okay, I said it right, Lisa. Calgary, Alberta, near the Canadian Rockies. You see how she's laughing? Okay, because you know I'm right. Okay, Calgary, Alberta, Canada, near the Canadian Rockies, with her hubby and 2 dogs. They are the proud parents of 2 beautiful and strong adult daughters who inspire Lisa every day with their wisdom and empathy. Today's show is titled Ministry, ACES, and Lattes with Lisa M. LeBlanc. Now, the reason that we're going to title it that is because we're going to talk about the work that she does as a ministry leader. We're going to talk about ACES because, like Lisa, I also am an ACES ambassador with our beautiful, beloved CEO and leader, Dr. Torie Williams. Okay, ACES stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences.
Yes.
See, for all the viewers, I got to watch these interviews because you missed them. Let me bring up my ACES pyramid a little bit bigger on the screen.
Yes.
So hold on just 1 second. Okay, see the ACES pyramid? So if you don't know about ACES, go back and binge watch the 3 episodes that I did with Dr. Torie Williams on ACES. You can also go to the CDC's website, cdc.gov. Again, CDC, Centers for Disease Control.gov, G-O-V. This is the ACES pyramid. We're going to discuss this, and we're going to talk about it in some great detail. And we're also going to talk about her book, The Ninth Child.
Yes, we are.
And her podcast that she does. I got to get that book. I need an autographed copy. I don't want the ebook. We'll talk about that a little later. Lisa,
let's do that.
Come on. Talk to me.
I'm so pleased to be here. I am thrilled when I get a chance to make new connections within our ACES community and have more conversations about this. We just need to keep that conversation rolling.
Let's keep it rolling. Look, I don't even know where to begin because I'm like, podcaster to podcaster. We know how we roll. These are unscripted conversations. They're uncensored. So, you know, if you got to throw some adult language in there, that's on you. All we say is be honest. You can be as general, specific with whatever you want to share, and no bigotry. That's all we say. Other than that, we're good.
I love it.
So I want to let's start with the ministry work.
Okay, ministry work.
Now, I want you to talk to me for real. Okay, I don't want the corporate answer. I don't want the answer that you say to your children. I want you to say the words that you would say to me if we were sitting somewhere having a latte or an adult beverage. Okay?
I'm with you.
Okay, so
that's my favorite kind of conversation, LP. I don't do corporate answers. I don't do polished answers. I do the real deal. And if it lands, it lands. If it doesn't, it doesn't. If it gives people something to think about and talk about, even better.
Because you might like, fuck this shit, okay? I'm just saying.
100%. I'm the church lady who's more church than lady. I don't know, but
more lady than church.
Yeah, whichever. I am fully aware that I walk into rooms and have conversations that make people within faith communities very, very uncomfortable sometimes, and I'm okay with that.
Let's talk about that, because on the Trigger One Talk podcast, let me get the disclaimer, okay? Trigger One Talk podcast, all 4 words. Please like, subscribe, follow us on our YouTube channel, Penton Pending Consulting Solutions LLC. I want to let people know a couple of things before we get started. If you're triggered at any point during this interview and you need help, immediately call 911. Okay, that's going to get you all the help for starters that you need in an emergency situation. If you don't have an immediate need, but you still need help, call 988. 988 is here in the U.S. and its tributaries. It is available toll-free, 24/7. It's a bunch of mental health people that will give you referrals and resources. If you don't live here in the States, like our friend Lisa, who lives, she's our northern neighbor in Canada, call your local 3-digit or non-emergency number. So, Lisa, question: what is your local 911 number? What's your 911 number in Calgary?
It is the same here. We have 911 for immediate emergency services. We also have 988 for mental health services. We also, if you look in if you want more local support, we also have a 1-800 distress number that is local to. So Calgary has its own distress number.
Now,
so you can call mental health distress. You can dial 988 in Canada. You can dial 911 in Canada.
So very similar to the way it's said. Got it. Now, let's just go ahead and go into it.
All right, let's dive.
Give us the cliff notes. If somebody said, Lisa, give me your background in 5 minutes, what would you say? The mic is yours.
Well, my book is called The Ninth Child for a reason. I am the 9th child. I am the youngest of 9, born into Baptist fundamentalism, high control religion, farm family, southern Minnesota, and that trench.
Wait. The Midwest?
I know, I just dropped the bomb.
No, I'm from St. Louis, so I've been in Minneapolis and the Twin Cities a lot. So you grew up.
Lots of family of origin still in Minnesota. Yeah.
What part?
Southern Minnesota, I have family members in the Twin Cities area, Minneapolis and St. Paul.
And farther south?
And further north.
Oh, further north.
My aunt still lives in the hometown. My parents have since deceased, and my other 8 siblings, some of whom live in Minnesota, some of whom are dispersed throughout the United States.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
My aunt still lives in the hometown. She lives in my grandma's house that I reference in my book, in my story. So born into, as the youngest of 9, youngest siblings out there, I see you and you see me. We are the observers. We come into a fully functioning, fully just running family system.
Okay.
Every family has an operating system, and by the time the youngest lands, it is very well entrenched. So there wasn't any space for me to really, I had questions, but there wasn't any space for me to ask questions, if you know what I mean. It was, this is what we've always done. We've just got to, the cows got to get milked, the calves got to get fed, the crops got to get cut. You know, we were a busy farm family. It was a working farm. And we had stuff to do, and relationship building and long conversations and asking questions about existential things. There just wasn't any time and space for that. It was stop asking questions and just do what you're told. And I grew up within that environment. There's a lot of beauty to be found in a tightly knit small town faith community. There's a lot of beauty to be found there, but there's also a lot of dysfunction to be found there. And in my opinion, and from my experience, it can become a breeding ground for grooming and child sexual abuse, particularly child sexual assault, which is what happened to me. I am a survivor of clergy sexual abuse. And I talk about that. I talk about that in my book. At the age of 6, my brain broke because of that. And I wasn't diagnosed until I was 32, but the depression, the anxiety, the PTSD, the suicidal ideation began almost immediately. So I was dealing with all of this, not knowing how to deal with it, not having a safe place to talk about it. When I finally disclosed to my mom what had happened to me, apparently we have very, very different memories of that. My memory is me telling her in the kitchen, this is what happened, and her telling me, I don't have time for this. I have to finish the laundry. And she went down to the basement to do the laundry. When I came, I'm going to stumble over my words a little bit because my squirrels are really running fast on their treadmills today. That wasn't, according to my mom, that wasn't what really happened. I had self-soothing, dissociative responses that allowed my mind to bury the abuse and to bury what happened. And I completely forgot about it. So I was still going to church. I was still shaking this deacon's hand. He was still serving us communion. In my daily life, I had no idea that there was anything wrong, that was anything amiss. But inside my internal life, my inside mind, there was a great deal of brokenness, and I felt very much set apart. I didn't feel like I belonged. I didn't feel like I fit in. I wasn't loved. I wasn't wanted. I wasn't safe. And those impressions stayed with me. And I just didn't know why I felt that way, but I couldn't get away from feeling that way.
Okay.
When the memory finally came back to me as an adult, and I went back to my mother and had that conversation with her, I tell that story in the book too. She told me what really happened. She told me that she responded to me. She took time with me. She then went to my father, according to her, and said that we decided together that to protect you, because you clung on to me and said, please, please don't ever make me talk about this again. I just want to forget. That was somewhere in the vicinity of 7 to 8 years old by the time that disclosure happened. She said that they decided together that maybe that would be best for me. And that makes sense to me. In 1970, children weren't believed when they would come forward. It would create an uproar. But the way she said that to me, LP, was that, well, of course we couldn't tell anybody. We couldn't risk the reputation of our family and of the church.
Wait, say that again. She said, we cannot
risk the reputation of our family and of the church.
And that was it.
For people to know that our deacon was a pedophile.
Okay. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Because I recently interviewed a minister who we talked about issues with the ministry in terms of sexual-based offenses, domestic violence, human and sex trafficking, true crime, and those are the things that we cover. And again, human and sex trafficking, domestic violence, sexually-based offenses, true crime, and at the end of every episode, including yours, you'll drop off, and I'll cover a missing person case, and it can be any active case. 99% of those that we cover are referencing Black and brown missing folks, because Mrs. LP, who is a unlicensed, uncertified true crime detective, she's gotten involved in a number of cases, in some true cases, and helped find the person one way or the other.
Yeah.
Now, she doesn't like getting notoriety for it and all that stuff, so you won't see her at press conferences and getting interviewed. However, this is why we added the missing persons component to what we do. So I want to just jump back into that, because I always got to give Mrs. LP a shout out.
Right on.
Let me say this. Again, if you're triggered at any point of this podcast, please use the references that we provide, because we're going to really talk about sexual-based offenses.
Yeah.
At the age of 6, that was the first time that happened to you.
Yes.
And when you said something to mom, she gave you that statement. Did you talk to anybody else? Anybody about it?
No. I dissociated for years and years. I forgot that it even happened. As an adult, once it came back to me, then I did start talking about it as an adult.
How old were you the next time?
I was newly married. So it was within the first year of marriage that this happened. It was in our first apartment. And I was making Macaroni and cheese and hot dogs for my husband, being the good little wife, making my good little supper for my husband after when he came from home from work. And I had Oprah playing on the TV in the other room. And I was kind of listening in while I was stirring the mac and cheese. And her guest was telling her story of child sexual abuse. And all of a sudden I dropped the spoon and I just went into this kind of a fugue state. Thank God, I had the presence of mind to turn off the stove.
Okay.
I went into the other room and I watched, and everything, it just hit me. That was the trigger that brought all the memories back. My husband came home from work and I was in the corner rocking and chanting, "It didn't happen. It didn't happen. It didn't happen." Trying to self-soothe, because that's what I did with my teddy bear when I was little. Every time the memory came back, that's how I pushed it down. And it wasn't working anymore. It was out and it was going to stay out. So because I'm a good little fundamentalist girl, the first person I went to is my pastor. And I was told, you know what? You need to go to the altar and you need to forgive him.
I want you to pause right there. And I want you to I want you to do some breath work because I want to talk.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people all the time, don't let my intensity intimidate you. I am a retired first responder, paramedic and a firefighter, or fire medic for short. As a first responder, I, like many other people who are licensed by the state, especially here in the States, I'm sure it's a little different in Canada. Mm-hmm. However, as a mandated reporter, you're required to mm-hmm. report incidents of specifically two things: child and elder abuse. Your supervisor can't tell you not to do it. Your minister can't tell you not to do it. Mm-hmm. You can pray all day and twice on Sunday. At some point before, during, or after that prayer, that pastor, by law, is supposed to be on the phone, like we call it hotlining in St. Louis, okay? Calling CPS. Yeah. Yeah. By law. Otherwise, that can void your license.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to say, and I'm looking dead in the camera, for anybody who is licensed by the state that deals with elderly and children, mm-hmm. or if you're not sure, you need to go to your state licensing board or whatever your job is and find out if you are a mandated reporter. Most people know. Mm-hmm. Some people forget. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't report those things that are mandated, mm-hmm. first and foremost, shame on you. Secondly, you deserve whatever happens to you in terms of legalities, in terms mm-hmm. of loss of job, whether it's suspension, yes. demotions, getting fired, getting sued. Mm-hmm. You deserve it, especially when we're talking about children and the elderly, because you are a mandated reporter for a reason.
Yeah.
Period. Miss Lisa.
Preach. Same here.
How does it work? How does mandated reporting work in Canada?
Exactly the same.
Exactly the
same. It's exactly the same.
No diggity, no doubt.
No, exactly. And even as a ministry volunteer that works with, in my church, ministry volunteers that work with vulnerable populations, which include children, elderly, anyone within mental health world, emotional support world, anything within those contexts are considered our vulnerable population. I have to go through extensive recertification every year within the, I forget what it's called now. We have a system that we register our volunteers with, mm-hmm. that we go through this, it's something safe.
Safe safe family, because we have that in Missouri. It's the
It's
family safety registry. I can't remember because I've been
yeah,
retired.
it's called Keep Safe, I think, that we use here. It's a Canadian thing.
Mhm.
And we go through, we do the training, we answer the questions, we register, and that makes us mandated reporters. Even though it's not my job, even though I don't
Sure.
have academic, whatever official credentials, because I minister even on a lay ministry basis, particularly as a Stephen minister. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Stephen ministry down
No.
there. We have that here now. It's a program of lay ministers. We are not, we go through extensive training. It actually came from St. Louis, the original program, about 50 years
Really?
ago. We're catching up to it now. The Alliance Church in Canada is starting to do that. I went through the training last year, so I am now a credentialed lay minister. I'm not ordained. I can't marry. I can't bury. Well, not that I can admit any of that kind of stuff officially, but I am a lay care and support minister. And what that means is that I get matched with someone who needs care, a care receiver. And then I enter into a one-to-one mentorship care relationship with them for however long their crisis lasts, and just give them someone one-on-one support. Back in the day, those were the kinds of things you went to your pastor for if a crisis arises in your life and you need some spiritual support. In the churches we have now, I go to a mega church, LP. We've had thousands and thousands of people that we serve. We're up to 5 campuses now. No pastors they need help. So this is we are highly trained with boundaries and approaches, learning how to be safe care and support lay ministers to people in crisis, which is a relationship. I have a relationship with a care receiver right now that I meet with her every week, and I'm walking her through with her situation. And it's very, very rewarding. But yeah, that makes me a mandated reporter. If I see it, I have to report it. I don't report it directly to authorities. I report it to my overseeing pastor, and they report it. And the thing with the Alliance Church here in Canada is that we have independent third-party investigations. So on any Alliance Church website, you're going to see a button that says report misconduct. And you can report whatever you need to report. I've interviewed the person who's in charge of that, so I know exactly what the process is. And I expected to like it. I didn't expect to be as impressed with it as I am. But it is impressive, the lengths that they go to. And for most of those high level misconduct complaints, including sexual misconduct and mistreatment and whatever, that immediately gets outsourced to a unbiased third party professional reporting system. And they come in, professional investigative system, and they come in and investigate unbiased and bring their findings. And there is a lot of accountability built in to the Alliance Church right now. And to be honest, that's one of the 2 or 3 reasons I'm still in church.
Okay.
I wouldn't go to a church that doesn't have that.
I'm really interested in finding out more about that. And I say that because I don't know too many churches that have that set up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting
We
there.
didn't used to. In fact, I know the woman whose story precipitated that. And they realized, listen, this is not okay how this was handled. We need to do this better.
Let me say this. This is not a referendum on churches being bad as a whole or anything like that. We're not saying don't trust the ministry, don't trust the ministry staff, the leadership, or anything like that. Okay. If you want to say there's bad apples in every bunch, so be it. Okay. There's bad first responders. I got stories. There's bad people or people that do bad things. Some, life is bittersweet, and it's not all bitter, and it ain't all sweet. And there's some things that when we're having these discussions, I say that you have to look at it from all points of view, and it has to be unbiased. And Mrs. LP and I always have this conversation about biases. So I want to get your opinion about this. Here's what I say when it comes to bias. you and I recently just met. Okay?
Yes.
So we don't know a whole lot about each other. We know some basic things about each other.
Mm-hmm.
Compare that to Mrs. LP. I've been knowing her since 2009. We got together officially in 2017. We married in 2019. Okay. And still married to this day. So I have a lot more information about her, but I'm not the person that will ever say to anybody, I know her.
Yeah.
Why do I say that? Because I'm learning stuff about her every single day. I don't care how minor or how major it is. And nobody tells everybody everything about them, whether it's something that they know, something that they just learned, something that maybe they regress, like you were talking about as a child, especially when it comes to ACEs, which we're going to segue into that in a little bit. So I always say, when it comes to biases, here's my thought about it. Whether you know that person intimately, family, whatever, co-worker, or somebody you just met, you have to treat that person as if you didn't know them from a hole in the wall and somebody gave you all the literature that you know about that person and you just read it from top to bottom. Would you say the same thing about that person, even if that person turned out to be somebody that you do know and love or like? If you can say the same thing about that person that you don't know based on the information that somebody just gave you, and you can, if you can do that with that person that you don't know, you should be able to do the same thing with the person that you know. So I don't have to know you to say, hey, what I know about Lisa, I know she's a good, kind-hearted person. I know A, B, C, 1, 2, 3 about her. Good, bad, or ugly. Okay. And the same thing should be applied to me. The things that you know and have heard about me, they should far outweigh the bad. Or even if it is bad, you can say good, bad, or ugly. Whatever your comments about me is, it shouldn't be based just on our friendship or our intimate partnership or whatever, because that's where it gets skewed. That's where it gets biased. If I can say the same thing about you as a stranger, I can say the same. I should be able to say the same thing about the person that I know. Okay. If I feel like we don't do that in a lot of cases because, oh, listen, that's my girl. I couldn't say anything negative about her, even though I know that she does something that maybe is not cool. Or, man, that LP is a straight knucklehead. As good as he is, you know, he just is, his head is hard as a rock. He just does not listen to people and does not want to get their input and all this other stuff or whatever. You know, it shouldn't matter what the relationship is. So what say you about biases and what I just said? The mic is yours.
That's a big, big question. First of all, I want to be aware of my biases.
Sure.
Everybody has them. I need to be aware of my biases. I want them called out when they become apparent. And if someone else sees them and I don't see them, I want to know. I want to know because I don't want to be guided by biases. I understand and am aware that because of who I am, where I live, socioeconomic, neighborhood, who I'm married to, all of those things, where I grew up, all of those things create a level of privilege that I did not earn, but I am aware of. And I must be aware, and that must inform how I'm dealing with people. I do not assume anything of anyone. But here's what I do notice. Here's why, for instance, here's why you came on my radar, LP, and you've been there for a while, and I've been thinking about this. This is a partnership. This is a connection that we need to have. When I find someone that I admire, that I trust, like Dr. Torie, like Leah Abraham, I want to know who they like. I want to know who they follow. I want to know who they admire and trust. And if they admire and trust this person, that's someone I want to know.
Exactly.
And that is a commonality. And that is how I've become more deeply connected within our ACEs community. And that's where I'm finding my guests. I don't know if you can hear my dogs barking their heads off in the background. Dog walker just got back.
We're gonna let dogs do what they do. Okay, my dog will
distracting me. It's not distracting you. That's good.
No, my dog will probably bust in the room and lay on this.
Right on. Love it.
Back here. Yeah,
Love it. Love to see it. Love to see it. Yeah. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I assume that my assumption, overall bias and assumption, is that everyone has a story that I know nothing about.
Yes. And
to be gentle, to assume everyone I come in contact with, friends, stranger, acquaintance, otherwise, everyone has ACEs. Everyone's got ACEs. Everyone has trauma. Everyone has trigger points. So I do my absolute very best with whatever capacity I have to treat every single human being as a human being, regardless of all the other descriptors, societal descriptors that they may have. Humans are humans. My job is to love. God made that very clear to me. Just, Lisa, can you just love them? Can you stop expecting and needing to understand? It's not your job to understand. It's your job to love my kids. Can you just love my kids? And stop asking me, stop bugging me that you don't understand XYZ, whatever. It doesn't matter. Just love. And when that distilled down to that very singular pinpoint for me, that cleared up a lot of stuff for me.
Because you got to know what works for you. And sometimes, especially if you're a believer, those are that higher power conversations that you have with that higher power for clarity.
Yep.
Now, let me ask you this, since we're talking about sexual-based offenses, especially in regards to the ministry. What type of flack do you get from people that either want to be silent, don't want you to say anything, they feel like you should just pray it away and leave it at that, that's between them and God, yada, yada, yada. What type of flack are you getting as far as the ops, as a lot of people call it, the opposition? What's your ops to your stance as a mandated reporter, especially from the ministry? Because I know you got stories. I'm listening.
Yeah. I've been on emergency services line a few times advocating for people who are in trouble. That's a fantastic question, LP. You may have already connected the dots. I grew up in fundamental Baptist, in high control religion, in right-wing fundamentalism. I grew up in Christian nationalism. I am now living in Canada with a Canadian husband. I go to the Alliance Church. That is very, very, very different. Writing my book, telling my story, I wasn't closely connected to my family of origin to begin with. To be honest, I never really was. I explain that more in the book and how and why that happened. But writing my book and telling my family story, now I don't name any names. I don't even name gender. If I'm talking about a sister or brother, I only ever say sibling. Because it's my story, it's not their story. And I'm not taking a grenade and pulling the pin and lobbing it at the church. I'm not throwing grenades at the church. I'm not throwing grenades at my family. But I know that that's how, I do understand, I'm sensitive to the fact that that's how they feel about it. So from that perspective, I expected to get some kickback. I expected to get some flack. You know what I got?
What's that?
Passive aggressive silence.
Silence speaks volumes. Okay.
I call it, you know what I call it, LP? I call it bad dogging.
Wait, hold on. Where's my notepad?
I have been bad dogged.
Go ahead. Oh, wait, I got to grab it.
So here's the metaphor.
Bad dog.
You're training a dog. You're teaching a dog. They're not listening to your cues. They're not listening to your body cues. They're not listening to your voice. Yeah. How do you get them to settle and know that they are being bad? You turn your back to them and you break eye contact.
Right.
The minute you make eye contact, they think, "Oh, I've got them, and I'm just going to continue this behavior." Right? Talk to dog trainers. That is a true thing. Yep. I'm a crazy dog lady. So my family just bad dogs me. They just withhold contact. So here's some context. I have 5 sisters. I'm the youngest of 9. Remember, there's 6 girls and 3 boys. I have 5 sisters and 3 brothers. And when the phone rings, it's rarely. I have 1 sister that will phone me every once in a while. She and I are still in contact. The rest of them, no. If you ask them, will they say that will they admit that they're mad at me? Will they say that they don't approve of me? Will they say, no, they won't say any of those things. No. We must polish and shine the family facade. This is what my mom was talking about, that we can't risk the family reputation. They will shine the family facade and pretend that absolutely everything is fine. There's no conflict. There's nothing wrong, except that they went through not all the same trauma that I went through, but we all grew up in the same house. We all grew up in the same dysfunction, and they experienced it differently than I did. But by the time I came along, my mother was broken. I grew up with a very, very different mother than they did because of age difference. But will they address that? Will they have conversations with me about that? Absolutely not. Will they be angry with me? Will they reprimand me or rebuke me? No, they just bad dog me. They just turn their back and will not engage. Their refusal to engage is the consequence. And in my family and in our brand of high control religion, this is how we control one another. You have my approval if follow the rules, check the list, do what I say to do, the way I say it to do it, dress the way I say to be dressed, smiling the way I say to smile, singing the songs that I say to sing. Everything involved, everything is allowed that we say is allowed inside what I call the tiny Baptist box. All of that is allowed, and you have our attention and our approval when you are inside that box. But God help you. If you climb outside that box, you're on your own. We're not coming after you. And relationship is just non-existent. So I have 1 sister that still speaks to me, 1 brother that will still speak to me, but I have to initiate contact. He will never, ever, ever call me. I only ever will call him.
That happens in my family, and we'll talk about that when you interview me on Lattes with Lisa.
Yeah, let's go there.
I'm holding up on the in front of me. So for our listeners, please, whenever you get a chance, go to Spotify or our company name YouTube channel, Penton Pending Consulting Solutions LLC, and watch these interviews. So we're talking with Lisa LeBlanc. This episode is titled Ministry, Aces, and Lattes with Lisa M. LeBlanc. She is an Aces ambassador like yours truly. She's a ministry leader and a blogger and host of a weekly Instagram live, Lattes with Lisa, and author of a memoir called The Ninth Child. Is available on her website, lisamleblanc.com, and Audible. If you're watching this interview, if you look at where I'm pointing my finger to my left, there's a QR code. You can scan that and it'll take her right to that Lisa M. LeBlanc website. And also her book is shortlisted for an award from the Word Guild. So shout out to you.
Thank you.
I can't wait to get my copy, and I want an autographed copy. So just let me know, and we'll talk about that later. Now, let's get back to this ministry stuff, because we're going to segue into the next thing, which is Aces. My mind is mapping because I got a little ADD. Okay?
Nice.
So I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about, okay, so we talked about sexual-based offenses. You want to know more, get the book. Okay, we're just going to leave it at that. Let's go over to the other thing that we talk about, DV, or domestic violence. Because domestic violence is not all hands-on, okay? Most of it ain't hands-on. A lot of it is verbal, okay? I'm sure that those that were older, especially your parents, with those things that you said and that they stood on, that I call it theater. Because we were in the church also, my ex-wife and I. We be arguing like cats and dogs, and as soon as we hit the vestibule, hey, what's going on, Pastor? How you doing, Deacon so-and-so, mother?
100%.
And then as soon as we get I'm talking about as soon as we get back in the car.
Yes.
Picking up from where we left off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kids in the back the whole time. Theater. So I get it. Trust me. We got stories. So
yeah,
that was a form of domestic violence for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to apologize to them for being a part of it. And I have.
Good for you.
How did you deal with those domestic violence situations with that emotional and verbal abuse is not just getting cursed out?
No.
You know, the person, whoever came up with sticks and stones may break your bones, but words never hurt. I want to throw a whole bunch of water balloons at them. Okay.
Yeah. I call BS on that.
I call BS on that. What say you? DV.
Doing the amount of work in trauma healing that I've done, I see it now in two different ways. I see it from different perspectives. As a child, all I knew was that it put me into freeze mode. And it put me into a dissociative state. And I would just climb inside my mind until it was over. And I would observe and learn and try to not do whatever it was that made mom mad that day. The main family rule that was never spoken out loud, but
you knew it
absolutely was a hard and fast family rule, was don't make mom mad.
Got
it. I am, in my telling of this in my book, I understand my mom's ACEs now. I did a lot of research on her childhood, what I could access. My mom has a high ACEs score of her own. And with no way to process that, of course, she turned in, of course it happened. I have so much grace and love and perspective for my mom now. But when it was happening in the moment as a child, it was duck and cover. And dissociate, learn, try to never do that thing again. But it was always a different thing on any given different day. We never knew it was going to set her off because it wasn't about us. It wasn't about me and my behavior. As an adult, I looked at that and thought, I want to be different than this, but I don't know how to be different than this. And I started seeing those same patterns creep into my parenting. And that was alarming. But I stopped and I didn't justify it. I stopped. I apologized. And there came a point when my girls were like young teen, mid-teen age, where I realized by that time I was diagnosed. I knew that I was really struggling with depression. I wasn't super aware of anxiety or PTSD, but I knew that I was really struggling hard with depression and suicidal ideation. And I knew it was affecting me. I knew it was affecting the way that I was relating to my daughters. And even as a young teen and a mid-teen, LP, I took a huge risk. And I sat them down and I said, listen, I know that I've been going off lately. I know I haven't been my best self. And I know that I've been taking that out on you. And I am so sorry. And I want to learn how to do this differently. I know that I am behaving in passive-aggressive, sarcastic ways. And I have passive aggressive, sarcastic language because that was the way I was raised. That's my mother tongue. That's the only way I know how to speak. And I know things come out of my mouth that I don't even hear, but I know you're hearing it that way. So my daughters, I'm taking a big risk and I'm asking you to call me out. I want you to tell me when you hear it, you immediately stop me. You must do so kindly. You must do so respectfully, but you must do that. I need your help because I do not hear it coming out of my mouth, but I know that it is. And I don't want to relive this with you. This is not fair to you. I need to change the way I'm parenting. I need to change the way I'm communicating, but I need your help to do it. And they looked at each other like, is this a trap?
So it was like,
you hearing what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm hearing. I don't know. Can we trust this? And let me tell you, it was rough because when I reassured them, yes, this is real. And yes, I really want to change. And yes, I need your help to do that. Oh boy, 20 times a day. Mom, did you hear what you said? Mom, did you hear what you said? Mom, did you hear what you said? Like, oh my word. Okay, maybe I'm just going to shut down and not talk at all because we're really good at shutting down. And then, but that shutting down creates an emotional distance and that severs connection. And I don't want that either. So I really just had to do the hard work. And the hardest piece of that work, LP, was the humility. I had to submit myself to 2 young teenage girls. And when they saw that over time, I was consistently responding and I was honest, this is hard to hear and I'm feeling frustrated and thank you. I didn't mean it that way and I don't want you to hear. No, that's defensive language. I'm justifying myself. I hear it. I receive it. Thank you for helping me to do better. You're doing exactly what I asked you to do. And over time, that settled in for me and that settled in for them. And over time, it came to a place where I was halfway through a sentence and I would start stopping myself. Oh, and because they'd have that look in their eye. It's like, Mom, do you hear yourself? They wouldn't even have to say it anymore. They'd just look at me. And it's, yes, I hear myself. Okay, let me stop and let me back this up and let me say this differently. And it was so hard. It was so hard. But you know what, LP, we had a difficult parenting journey with our 2 teenage girls. But I believe that this is one of the primary reasons that we are still in healthy, deeply connected relationship with them today, was because I was willing to be humble and be honest about what I was experiencing. I asked for their help and I received it with humility and gratitude.
Let me ask you this. And first, before I even ask you that, shout out, look, I'm playing with all these new tools that StreamYard has come up with. So, because I normally don't, that way I don't have to buy any extra equipment and all this stuff. I'm very frugal. Like, we'll talk about that later. I want to applaud you for having the courage to have conversations without confrontation. I learned that from a friend of mine that I met on Clubhouse. Her name is Loyalty. That's what we call her, but her name is Cassandra Mitchell. And she said that probably 4 years ago now, and I use it all the time. We got to have conversations without confrontation.
Yes.
You did that, yes. And I'm sure it was not easy. And I'm sure it's gotten easier, but it's still one of those, you know what? I can't put myself on a pedestal, or I can't be like, do as I say, not as I do, or because I'm the adult, that this is not applicable to me. I got to practice what I preach. And whether it's ministry leadership or just leadership in the home, because that's where everything starts. There's a comedian, his name is T.K. Kirkland, and he says, he has this one bit that says, who raised you? And he talks about that all the time because it all starts from home.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, you talked about what you said to the daughters. What did hubby say? And what was his experience going through all of this stuff from when you all met till, let's say, that conversation? Because he had to learn all of this stuff and he's still learning. So please, because we got to give our brothers a shout out. Our fellow husband, I'm a husband.
Yes.
Because Mrs. LP, I'm turning my head towards her. I love me some Mrs. LP.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes both of us have been a handful with each other. However, we do therapy multiple ways, multiple times, multiple situations. I am telling you, as much as she loves me, I love her too. I call her my Wonder Woman. And I want you to tell me about Mr. LeBlanc. Because he got stories too.
Oh, does he ever? He is a good man. He did not know what he was signing up for when he married me, let me tell you. Barely married a year, and he comes home from work and his wife is melting down in the corner.
What was his response? Like this started that. When he sees you're in the corner having a full-blown, I'm just going to call it panic attack.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did he say or do?
He said, he was freaked out as normally. Of course he would be. Of course he would be. But his response to me was so empathetic. And his response to me was, I love you. We're going to figure this out.
That's my God. That's all.
And when I was waking up, because all of the nightmares started coming back. So middle of the night, he's waking up to me screaming bloody murder in my nightmares. So he's living all of this with me, seeing all of these trauma reactions just play out in me to the nth degree now, because now they're just all out in the open. He's the man. There's a special corner in heaven for him. He's a saint, in my opinion. Now, he hasn't done everything right. Neither have I. We've had our own marriage counseling, and thank God for that. Our marriage therapist, Keith, saved our lives and saved our marriage. And we've been married 38 years and we're still going strong.
Hold on a second.
38 years. He has held space for me to feel what I'm feeling, go through what I'm going through, do the work that I need to do. And he supports me. I have largely not worked outside the home. He's the supporter. He's the rock. And he supports me now. I'm working every day. I'm doing this stuff every day. But if you call it work because someone's paying you, this isn't work. This is passion. He's supporting me and he believes in me. And he has supported my healing and has held space for my growth. When someone is doing this kind of healing, they are merging into a different kind of person. And that can be really, really rocky sometimes. And it can be difficult when they start reacting or responding in ways that they didn't used to react and respond. Okay. He was used to passive aggressive, sarcastic, bitch me. Okay. That's what he was used to. He had gotten to the point where he was afraid to bring anything to my attention. He avoided conflict at all costs because I'd go off just like my mother used to. When I started doing my healing and that started changing and I started practicing that differently. Now I'm talking over a period of years. That happened very, very slowly. That does not happen overnight. But now I know how to respond instead of react. I know I have skills. I have coping tools. I use them every day. They work really well for me. But he was stuck in a pattern of expecting and anticipating those old responses that weren't happening anymore. And sometimes he would say or do, or we talk about something, and he would assume that I'm going to be doing this because this is how we always used to dance. And now I am changing and now I'm doing this. And now we're dancing like this and we're banging up against each other in not a good way.
Not a good way.
And we had to come to the place, and I had to very gently tell him, you are still responding to me as if the old passive aggressive me is still having this conversation, and that's not what's happening. Oh, you need to hold space for my growth. You need to hear the words that I'm saying without the passive aggressive filter, because now my words are just my words. My words do not have a hidden punch behind them. I am not taking a passive aggressive shot at you. I promise you I'm not. Can you set that filter aside and can you just hear my words as my words? Because I'm literally just information seeking and asking a question right now. I had to be patient with his growth because he had to grow and change. If I'm growing and changing, because if we're dancing like this and all of a sudden I'm dancing like this, he had to learn new steps.
That's why y'all need to watch these interviews, because you would see the way that she's putting her fingers together. Like basically what she's saying is, if you take both of your hands and you spread your fingers apart and you interlace them, that's what she's describing, compared to having one hand pointed eastward and the other hand's pointed southward, and they're just banging up. The fingers are not going to interlace. They're not going to even intertwine or be interwoven or anything.
You're going to get hurt.
They're going to be hurt. You're going to be hurt. Yeah. And hurt leads to what? All kind of stuff. It leads to less domestic harmony. It increases the likelihood of domestic violence. And again, all violence is not hands-on. Most of it ain't hands-on. And exactly. About, a lot of that was not hands-on. It was verbal. It was emotional.
And it's not all instigated by the man. Let's get honest about that.
That you said that, because I talk about that all the time. Sometimes men are the offenders. Sometimes you're the survivors.
Mm-hmm.
And more men are starting to talk about being a survivor. It ain't enough.
No.
Let me tell you from a first responder perspective, because you mentioned suicidal ideation.
Yeah.
There's two schools of thought when it comes to suicide. Those that attempt and those that are successful. It ain't no middle ground.
Yeah.
Those that attempted and are found, whether hey, I just took 40 Tylenol. Come on, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, for real, you just took 40 Tylenol. Come, let's go. And you walk in and you see that person just out, and you're checking for signs of life, and nothing. Some things you can't check.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to thank you for not being successful.
I am also very grateful for that.
Tell me about that not being successful. I know you may have talked about it in the book, and I don't want you to deep dive into it. What did it mean for you to not be successful? I don't want you to tell me what you did or how you attempted or none of that stuff. I don't want you to talk about it. We don't need the blood and guts. Okay?
Yeah.
What did it mean for you not to be successful in your suicidal attempt?
See, here, I may need some guidance from you, because in my suicidal ideation, I was ideating all the time. I was ideating every day. It only ever lived in my head. I never actually attempted. I wanted to. I fantasized about it. I thought about it from the time I was very, very small. What does it mean to not have attempted, to not have succeeded? It means everything. It means everything. I finished the book with this in 2021. In 2020, I was circling the drain. My daughters actually had an intervention with me. Mom, this is what we're seeing, and we're really, really scared for you. And in 2021, through a miraculous series of events, I was able to access actual curative treatment called neurofeedback brain training. I was able to do that locally here in Calgary. My whole last chapter is about it. If you want to deep dive into my experience, it's on my blog. Go to my website, lisamayleblanc, click on neurofeedback. It's on the front page right below the image of my book. And you can read my whole journey, because I journaled through the whole thing. It changed my life. It saved my life, LP. It fixed my brain in a physiological way that this suicidal ideation just doesn't happen anymore.
Tell us more about that, because that's the first time I heard of it.
Neurofeedback brain training. There's lots of neurotherapies that exist now. There are more coming into existence and coming into practice every day. Neurotherapy, in my opinion, is the future of mental health and trauma recovery.
Wow. Okay.
Talk therapy is great. Talk therapy is important. However, it's kind of like taking Advil for cancer.
I got you.
I'm sorry, but it just.
No.
So what neurofeedback did for me, I post pictures, the whole thing. They actually did a brain map, a 3D brain map that was colorized.
Okay.
So he could, like in the image, my doctor could kind of spin the brain around. Yep, I see this here. I see this here. I see old concussion. You didn't tell me about that.
Is this MRI imaging?
It's similar to MRI imaging. It's a brain map. They put the cap on my head. They do the it's all.
So it's like EEG. Yeah.
It's EEG. Yeah,
EEG.
it's QEEG. That's exactly what it is. So then they get this image, and he was able to pinpoint, okay, where do we want to start? Here's the issues that I'm seeing. He could see the physical damage on my brain from my molestation. There's physical damage that showed up on my brain map. It's on my blog. The picture is there. You can see it. I pointed out, I said, yep. And it's interesting because my sister-in-law, who is the one who first told me about neurofeedback because she had done it too, but she wasn't talking about it yet. She was telling me about her brain map. She has the same spot in the same area of her brain because she was molested at about the same age that I was. He said, I see this. You wouldn't have had to tell me about child sexual abuse. I can see it on your brain. It leaves a mark. He could see the concussion. That was a different color. He could see different things. He said, okay, where do we want to start? Yeah, there it is.
Okay, so
Yeah.
for
Scroll
those
all the way down to number 1. And so I said, okay, let's do this. And I went and for a neurofeedback brain training therapy. I did it like twice a week. And after 8 weeks, he took a second, the latest brain map review. Yeah.
hold on a second.
Brain map
Hold on a second. So for those that are not watching, I'm pulling up from her website. So on her website, lisamayleblanc.com, there's a link on there that says neurofeedback, which is what we're talking about right now. And so you click on that, and on the screen, and I'm looking at it right now. We're looking at it right now. It's part 17, the latest brain map review. Now, this was posted May 16, 2021. And it says it's a 3-minute ring, but it has 2 of the brain scans on there. And it says, this graph shows my brain activity while I was relaxed and at rest. The spikes show in the image on the right, the spikes shown in the image on the right signify that my brain is still engaged in mild threat assessment, even when my eyes are closed. It has greatly improved, however. And then there's another set of scans underneath that, and that's called the absolute power brain map. And that one says the main thing to notice in the above image is the differences between them. The one on the left is my map from 6 weeks ago. The one on the right is most recent. The biggest change in the top 2 rows is in the top 2 rows. My antidepressants show up as red on this map, and the red has greatly reduced on the right because I was taking a reduced dose of Wellbutrin. I have now successfully eliminated it entirely. And then the last one, which is a hemispheric brain activity. So the right and the left, or I'm sorry, the upper and the lower. So it says my hemispheric brain activity is balancing out. There's still some red happening in the left brain, but there's been a great deal of improvement, which should be trending as I reduce my Prestique. What is Prestique?
That's another antidepressant. So at the time I was on 2. I was on Prestique and Wellbutrin together. They supported each other really, really well until they didn't.
Okay.
These drugs aren't made for long-term use. They're just not manufactured for that. And the side effects were worse than what I was taking them for to begin with. I have a wonderful doctor who, when I went to her and said, listen, I'm going to start this thing and I'm going to do neurofeedback. She'd never heard of it either, LP. But I said, this is what I'm going to do with the intention of being able to come off my meds entirely. And she said, that never happens. Just, you need to understand that never, ever happens. I don't know what this is. I don't know what you're involved in, but please be very cautious. Said, okay, well, I'm going to do this. And I'm going to be, I gave her my blog. I said, I'm going to be blogging about this. So here's my blog address. Please stay up to date with this. And she said, okay, I want you to come back in 8 weeks and let me know how you're doing. And she followed me very closely through this whole thing. She was so impressed with the results that I was seeing, with the results that she was seeing, that when my naturopath, who was doing the neurofeedback, administering the neurofeedback brain training for me, when he recommended it's time to knock down your antidepressants because they're causing you more problems. Good. She was like, oh, I went to my doctor and she said, okay, whatever he says, let's do it. And she was in full agreement and full support of this, which I understand how rare that is, that doctors and naturopaths, that a typical doctor will work with, extra medical kind of practices. And she totally buys into it now. She's totally a fan because she reviewed all of the medical evidence and she said, this is working. Let's get you off of these meds. And it changed my life. My suicidal ideation is gone. I no longer drive down the road thinking about other things and all of a sudden have an image popping into my brain of, what if I just drive in front of this truck? Or what if I just pull at full speed down the highway, pull into this, just drive into this overpass abutment, or what? Disruptive thoughts that I don't want, that I'm not ruminating on, that just appear because that's how my brain works. So neurofeedback comes on board, and it sees all those places that either where neurons, neuroreceptors have broken down because of trauma or because of other things, or because of young childhood trauma, neurological neuroreceptor connections that are supposed to grow but don't. So neurofeedback comes back in and trains the brain to rebuild those. And now I've got a new highway inside my brain, and it teaches my brain to run those new circuits instead of dropping off those broken circuits. And now my brain is healthy, and now I'm off all of my meds, and now I have no more suicidal ideation, and my anxiety and PTSD and depression are under control, that are so mild that if I do experience them for any reason, I know what to do, and I can use I can use my coping skills, and I can get back out of those triggers very, very quickly now. I don't get stuck in them anymore.
This is the Trigger Warning Talk podcast. We're produced by my company, Penton Pending Consulting Solutions, LLC. We have a great guest, Lisa May LeBlanc from Calgary, or in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. She is an author. She wrote a book, a memoir, The Ninth Child, which that's what she is. She's a ministry leader. She's a blogger. She has an Instagram live that's called Lattes with Lisa, which I'm going to be a soon-to-be future guest on there. We're talking about ministry, ACEs, which is adverse childhood experiences, and Lattes with Lisa LeBlanc. We've covered so much on the ACEs pyramid, and we haven't even really talked about ACEs in particular. So let's go ahead and just morph into that, because I'm holding up the ACEs pyramid on the screen here. You can download this, and look, Dr. Torie is going to love this image. Okay, Dr. Torie, I'm telling you, she hasn't even, nobody has seen this yet other than us. I'm telling you, she is going to love, did I say love this interview, okay, because you're one of her favorites.
Oh, okay? She's one of mine.
And so we've covered all of these things. We talked about generational embodiment and historical trauma, just about you, social conditions, local context. We're getting ready to get really into the adverse childhood experience, but we talked about it. Okay, disrupted neurodevelopment, that regression and suppression and all this stuff. Okay, social, emotional, and cognitive impairment. We talked about how that affected you. Okay, adoption of health risk behaviors. We just talked about suicidal ideation, which led to the disease, disability, the social problems, which almost ended in early death. Okay. Yeah. From conception to death. That's what the ACEs pyramid is about. Just as some standard things, you can throw a lot of things under multiple levels of this pyramid. Okay. Level by level, brick by brick. Let's talk about these two books. Okay. The Body Keeps the Score, because you got an opinion about this book.
Yes.
And you said something about it on one of the, I think it was either Lunch and Learn with Dr. Torie. It was somewhere we were talking. Maybe it was Leah's Trauma Drama Thursday. And then Dr. Torie's book, which is It's Time to Talk About It, Adverse Childhood Experiences with Dr. Torie-Williams. Okay. Now, what's your view on The Body Keeps the Score? Because what did you say to me? Do you remember what you said to me about that?
I don't remember specifically. I know that it completely validated my entire life.
Okay.
It is so validating. It absolutely keeps the score. It made so much of what didn't make sense to me. It made sense.
Let's talk about
how my body processes trauma. And I'm experiencing a new wave of that, in that I've reached a new level of my trauma healing, because I am currently in Leah Abraham's 5-step healing course. And that is bringing me closer into alignment, I am more in tune with what my body is telling me. And I'm actually experiencing my body starting to speak up in ways, I think, because I'm finally ready to listen to it and hear it and recognize it and address it, which is a beautiful thing and sometimes disruptive. But I'm figuring out coping skills for it, so it doesn't derail me. It's a good thing when my body speaks up and says, hey, I've been saying no to you about this for a really long time. Are you ready to finally listen to me? And I'm like, okay, yeah, I am ready. I am in alignment. I am paying attention. Body, I want you to tell me. Kind of like I had that conversation with my daughters. I am ready to listen to you. I want you to tell me. And man, when you tell your body, just be prepared and hang on. Buckle up, baby, because here we go. The body's going to start talking.
I always think about the song "Be Prepared" from The Lion King.
Yes.
Yeah, you got to be ready. Look, let me bring this on the screen real quick because you brought up our beloved. You know, that's my girl, Leah. Okay. We've done so many things on this particular podcast. Our series on the Trigger Want to Talk podcast is called Stigmas, Taboos, and Stereotypes, addressing worldwide childhood domestic violence. And we've interviewed a number of people internationally and locally here in the States talking about childhood domestic violence from a worldwide perspective. And so hold on just 1 second because I want to bring it up because I want people to see that when we're having these conversations, we really show people that the resources that we want people to understand that we list and the people that we network and partner with, they're the real deal. Like you said, we vet each other all the time. Yeah. And I've been working with Leah probably definitely 3 years and counting. Definitely 3 years and counting. Let me pull up her information on the screen, and I want you to talk about her 5-step, not what you're doing specifically, but I want you to talk about her 5-step healing plan.
Her 5-step healing course is really helpful. It's been helpful to me so far. We've done 2 steps. We're coming back Monday to do step 3. So far, it has been the most helpful to me in learning about alignment, learning to recognize when I am regulated and when I am dysregulated, coming into a deeper, more keener awareness of that, and learning how to take that dysregulation, whatever I'm saying, doing, habits that I have that are not aligned with the core values that I want to be, with the core healing that I am trying to support, learning how to bring that back into alignment without judgment, without, with kindness, with love, with, first of all, with awareness. Like, don't be mad at yourself. Just be aware and be curious. She's taught me how to be curious and compassionate with myself. She's taught me how to examine my habits and my processes, whether or not they truly align with the character that I want to have and the character that I believe myself to be, and how to be aware of that and learn how to bring that back into alignment. And that is making a big difference for me.
Let's jump over to ACEs, because you and I are part of a nonprofit called BeVictorieus Foundation, and we are what's called ACEs Ambassador. ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. Dr. Torie is one of the nation's foremost experts. She got her dissertation. She wrote her dissertation on ACEs, and she has a doctorate in education from my home state of Missouri, the Show Me State. She's on the west side, Kansas City, Missouri. I'm from the east side, not East St. Louis, because that's a whole nother state. Okay, East St. Louis is Illinois. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. So we're on opposite ends of the state. We got Chicago in common. She lived there for a number of years. I was just a visitor. That was like I was going to move up there. That's a whole nother conversation. Then she's now in Texas. And so let's talk about the work that you do as an ACEs ambassador and what ACEs means to you. So what does ACEs mean to you?
ACEs means to me, when I got my score, so I'm an ACEs score of 5, according to the assessment tool that you talked about at the beginning, the CDC. Now, having said that, the religious trauma that I experienced lays outside of that initial assessment tool. So we do know that there are other kinds of traumas that aren't represented within the initial assessment tool. If those were added in, my score would probably be higher, but it's not a competition. Knowing my score helps me because it gives me a frame around my experience and it validates it. It's not, oh, that's just normal stuff that happens. Yeah, everybody has a tough childhood, no big deal. Get over it, is bypassing. My score, the ACEs score, gives it a frame. It validates it. So I could admit, yes, this was actually trauma. This wasn't normal. I don't normalize this anymore. Everybody has this in their childhood, but that doesn't make it normal. That makes it common. And those are two different things.
That's right.
And once I know, now it's framed. Now I know, now I have names for my trauma. Now I can identify it. Now I can name the trauma responses that come from that. Now that I have awareness, I have choice. I learned this from Leah. Awareness brings choice. Now that I am aware, I can choose what I want to do about that, or whether or not I'm not ready to do anything about that. And that needs to sit to the side for now. So ACEs awareness gives me choice to address or to not address, and to address my trauma and how I'm going to address my trauma. And now it becomes a conversation instead of a judgment or an identity. I am not identified by my ACEs, but knowing my ACEs gives me choice in how I pursue recovery. And that's huge for me.
Tell us about the ACEs ambassadorship in particular.
ACEs ambassadorship my ambassadorship is very, very important to me. I love the collaborations that I have within this community, particularly with Dr. Torie. She is equipping and training and preparing us to be the person, the educator, the influencer within our own circles, within our own communities. For me, that means I can address ACEs awareness within my faith community. And that's where it's huge for me. Because for a girl that came from the far right, legalistic, high control religion that I came from, how am I still in church, LP? I don't know. I've tried to quit so many times. And you know what? One day I took my dogs and I went down to the river and I had it out with God. And I said, listen, I'm done with this. I'm done. I want to quit. Everybody else gets to walk away from church because the church hurt them. How come I can't? Why aren't you letting me do this? And he let me scream and yell and swear. And yes, I admit, I swore at God. You know what? He's big. He can take it. And he says, thank you for using that language with me. And please don't use it with anybody else because I can take it, but I don't think anybody else could take you today. So yes, by all means, bring all that to me. And he let me rant, he let me rave. And I finally stopped to take a breath. And I know how this sounds, but for those of you out there, yeah, the Lord spoke to me and it's not weird. It's actually just a thing. It is a thing for people who are believers. And he said, okay, you know what? You're not wrong. And I get you. And who's going to change it if you leave?
Wow. I mean,
and I'm like, what do you mean me? Like, I'm no Moses. I'm no, like, no, why is this my job? Why is it my job? Why is it my responsibility? And he said, why do you think it's your job? It is my job. This is what I am doing. I am inviting you into it. Do you want in or not? You can choose right here, right now. Do you want in? Because I'm going to do all of this with or without you. It's going to happen. because
just
I
need more
am
messengers.
renovating and renewing all things. And I am renovating and renewing my church. And if you can quit now if you want to, but you're going to miss it, girl. You're going to miss it. Do you want in or do you want out? And I'm like, oh man. Ugh. Yeah, I want in. I said, okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about what that looks like. And that started being conversations one-on-one with trusted friends. And then those trusted friends saying, hey, I was just having this conversation with so-and-so about the same thing. We want our church to be more, aware of mental health issues and trauma issues. Because, yeah, we love our church, but sometimes we don't feel safe here either. Okay, what are we going to do about that? I started having conversations with my pastors. I email, say, hey, I want to take a meeting with you, and this is what I want to talk about. And I'm thinking, oh my word, the hubris. Who am I? Who am I? But okay, God, are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. Press send. Okay, here we go. And you know what? My pastors took those meetings, and you know what they said, LP? They said, me too. This is what we want to. This is what our lead team wants to. Please don't go anywhere. We need you, and we need people, your friends. We need those other people. We need the people around you that are like-minded. We want to shift the culture in our faith community. Please don't go anywhere. We need your help to do that.
Well, hot darn, I'm telling you.
Well, now I'm in like a dirty shirt, and they're not getting rid of me. So
yeah, I'm telling you. You just let me know how I can be part of that group of ACES ambassadors to talk with the congregation.
Right on.
Because I want to tell people when we're talking about ACES, I'm just going to give a brief tutorial. It is a public health crisis. It stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. Okay, the ACES pyramid that people always see me hold up. You can get that off the CDC's website, cdc.gov. In the search box, you can type in the letters ACE or ACE space pyramid. And there is a quiz or a test. And the ACEs test is there's the score is so it says the ACEs test. I'm just reading from Dr. Torie's website. So I want to make it very clear and plain. And I am an ACEs ambassador. So she says she wants you to discover your ACEs, your adverse child experience score, in 11 questions. And the ACEs test is based on the ACE study conducted by the Kaiser Permanente and the CDC. Those are the people that some of these chapters in The Body Keeps the Score was based on when Dr. Vanderkolk wrote The Body Keeps the Score. And it demonstrated the relationship between ACEs and adult health and social outcomes. So it's not just about kids or children. Yeah. And it says understanding ourselves as adults often means revisiting our childhoods, like what we've been talking about. The ACE or Adverse Child Experience test helps you do that. The test asks 11 questions. And at the end, it will provide you with your score and information on what it may mean to you. Your answers are confidential, and no identifying information is gathered. Now, I'm going to post a link to the quiz in the chat. And again, I'll post a link to the quiz, not in the chat. I'll post a link to the quiz in the show notes. As we wrap up, because we can go on and on and on. Yeah. I'm going to take you back also.
We're going to save something for Lattes with Lisa.
Save something for Lattes with Lisa. As we wrap up this interview, give me 3 points that you want the listeners, because this is my podcast, but it's your interview. Okay? This is your baby. What do you want to lead? Because we always end with modalities. I don't like just talking, okay? How do we heal? How do we heal? How do we heal? Everybody's not going to benefit by laying on somebody's couch for 45 minutes doing a Q&A. There's all types of modality. Medication has its place, okay? But everything does not need a pill. So give me 3 ways of a modality referral that works from your perspective.
That's a great question. Well, for me, my first answer is going to be neurofeedback because that's what saved my life.
Neurofeedback. Okay.
Yeah. I was circling the drain in 2020. I did neurofeedback for the first 6 months of 2021. Without it, I've never attempted, but I would have attempted, and I would have been successful. It would have been a one and done, and I wouldn't be here today without it. I'm grateful for that. So look at neurotherapies. There are lots of different ones.
Okay.
Get into communities. Community is huge. Community is huge. Look into communities. Get onto Larry's Instagram. Find out who he's following. Where is he showing up? That's where I want to show up. Where am I showing up? That's where you want to show up. Look at Dr. Torie and see what she's doing. Hop on to her Lunch and Learns every Thursday. At noon Central Time.
That's right.
It's 11 a.m. for me. And then right after that is Leah's Trauma Drama. Oh my goodness. If you are looking for supportive community, that's a place to find it as Trauma Drama. Absolutely. I've got one more and it doesn't exist yet, but it's going to shortly. Does that count?
Mike is yours.
There's a piece that we haven't addressed, and that's caregivers. Caregivers of people who struggle with mental illness, caregivers of people who struggle with trauma recovery, caregivers of people who are struggling and living with chronic illness. Our caregivers are falling through the cracks, and that's not okay with me. So here's what I'm going to do. I am currently working on building a support group. I'm not sure what platform that's going to land on yet, but I'm talking to Dr. Torie, and we might fold that into the Be Victorious community on Mighty Networks. I'm starting a support group with another member of our community, mixed wife, actually.
Mixed wife.
Yeah. We are working hard to get that set up and to make that a safe, caring space for our caregivers to land.
I want in on that, Lisa. Here's why.
All right. You're on the list. I will let you know.
Here's why. As a first responder, I've had to deal with that a whole bunch. Where I'm from, St. Louis, Missouri, I work for a private EMS service and I work for a paid fire protection district in St. Louis County. And on the EMS side, because I spend more time on the EMS side than the fire side, working for a private EMS service, we had contracts with all kind of nursing homes and rehab centers and other places. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we did a lot was respite care transports.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I'm well versed on respite care.
Yeah.
And we would take people that the patient would be afflicted with whatever illness, mentally, physically, both. And we would take that person to wherever they were. Either they were going to a place like maybe a nursing home for a week, or they were staying at home and there was going to be some in-home health aid care that would be there for those days, that couple of weeks or so. And all it does, it gives the caregiver a break for that X amount of time.
Yeah.
And we did that on a regular. Those were our basic life support, non-emergent transports. Okay. Somebody would schedule respite care for their bedbound loved one. Hey, I just need 5 days just to clear my head because I'm doing this 24/7. You're not abandoning this person. No. You're not just leaving them with Uncle Bob or Susie or whomever. This is a licensed or certified healthcare provider, maybe a nurse or whomever, or they're going to a facility. Yeah. Respite care is very important for the caregiver. I even had a lady that reached out to me that I met on Clubhouse some years ago. Her husband has bipolar schizophrenia, and she lives in the Northwest. She lives in Washington State, not too far from where you are. Yeah. And she was like, I don't know what to do. I'm kind of at my wit's end, and I just need a break. And I said, do you all have respite care there? And she was like, what's that? And so I explained to her what it is. And she was like, let me get back to you. She said, I don't think so, but let me get back to you. So she was calling around. She was like, we don't have a lot of those resources here. I said, well, look, talk to his doctor, find some social services programs, network with some some mental health professionals, and it may be a drive depending on where part of the state you're in. Okay. Mm-hmm. She got back with me 2 weeks later, and she was like, hey, I'm getting ready to go to Mexico for 2 weeks. My dad's going to pay for it. My husband, he's going to be getting in-home respite care. And I'm telling you, she came back on fire because she got a 2-week break. Yeah. And I told her at that time, I said, you know what? I would love to create a database for respite care, state by state. Mm-hmm. And we never got to finish doing that. So whatever you're working on as far as that, even from an international perspective,
yeah,
in.
It'll be online. It'll be global.
Yep.
We're going to have to start with a small number, but sure. We're already thinking about how this is going to grow and how we can accommodate that growth, because this is a huge, huge, huge critical need. What would it mean to a burned out caregiver to have a community, have an not in person, but face-to-face online touch point with community that actually gets it, because they're going through it too, to have that empathetic community peer support, have that touch point, and then have that community to chat with in between. When they need support, when they need to be able to say something to a community who understands and isn't going to judge them and is going to hold them with care and support and empathy. That's huge.
Let me tell you something, Lisa. In the world of podcasting, as far as my research has shown, we're the only podcast that's led by a first responder that covers domestic violence, human and sex trafficking, true crime, missing persons, and sexually based offenses, all under one podcast.
Yeah, that's huge.
That's willing to have these conversations from a first responder perspective, who happens to be a male, because a lot of guys don't want to talk about this shit, period.
Yeah.
Let alone have it on a social media platform. That's why we call ourselves the Trigger Warning Talk Podcast. There's a couple of Trigger Warning podcasts out there, but we're the Trigger Warning Talk Podcast because we want to address these issues. We don't get a lot of training on this stuff. Now, because I work for a private EMS service, I'm able to have that conversation with you about the respite care because that was part of the job. But I didn't know that. Nobody talked to us about that when I was in EMS school, and if you don't work for a private EMS service, you just work for a municipality, you're not probably going to have those interactions with those patients and in those situations. You're going to the hospital. Okay.
Yeah.
We went everywhere. We did hospice transports, critical care, ALS calls, advanced life support calls, or basic life. We did everything. We would pick up organs. We would pick up organs for like a regional airport and transport them, lights and sirens, to one of the hospitals. We would pick up the organ or the transplant team that would go to do the surgery and take them to the hospital. We did people that had recently died. Maybe they were brain dead or put on life support that were going to donate their body to either science or an organ donor. We would go to the hospital, put them on all the life support machine that we would transport them on, and take them to a transplant center or take them to like Logan Chiropractic School, which is one of the local chiropractic schools in the St. Louis area. They were donating their body to science. I did all kind of stuff in EMS that I never thought I would be witness to or whatever. So as a first responder, I can have these conversations that a lot of first responders can't. That's why I say I put my resume up against anybody in EMS. Yeah, I said it. I'm going to say it again. I don't care who it is. They may have been in the game longer than me. They may have more certs than me. Yeah. Everybody haven't done what I've done, seen what I've seen. So I put my resume up against anybody. And that's not to say I'm bigger, badder, or better than anybody. that says that I'm willing to have the conversations, plural, without the confrontation. Lisa, I'm going to pull up your, I already got it up here in the corner. So for those that are watching, if you look to my left, there's a QR code. Scan it. It will take you to Lisa's website. And if you want to go to her IG page, what's your IG link, Lisa?
Lisa May LeBlanc.
Lisa May LeBlanc. Okay.
Can I give you and your viewers a gift, LP?
Anytime, my dear.
You go to my website, you order my book off my website. This code doesn't work on Amazon. It only works on my website. I'm going to give you a discount code.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So get ready. This is the discount code that I offered to Dr. Torie for the BeVictorieus community, and I'm going to give it to you too. So when you go to checkout, enter the discount code T, the number 9, C for the 9th child, BV for BeVictorious.
Wait, T, the number 9, C,
BV for BeVictorious.
BeVictorious, okay.
That's going to get you 20% off.
20% off, okay.
Yeah.
I want to put that in the show notes, okay. I'll have all of that listed in the show notes. T as in Tom or the 9 number, C as in child, B as in bumblebee, and V as in victorious.
You got
I'll put that 20% discount. I'll put all that information in the show notes along with your website and your IG link. I need you to get a link tree because you can get one of those for free.
Oh, yeah.
And it'll just have all of that stuff all in one whop. So go ahead and download Linktree and set all that stuff up for yourself. And then you have one-stop shopping. But again, look above my head because I got a split screen here. Here's the QR code that'll take you to all of that stuff. Lisa LeBlanc, thank you so much for joining the Trigger Warning Talk podcast. You know, we've been waiting. We've been waiting on you, sister. And let me tell you something. I love you. Mrs. LP loves you. God loves you. And ain't nothing you can do about it. So don't even try it. Okay. I see that pretty smile. See that beautiful smile. That's all we want to see. You know, again, life is bittersweet. It ain't all bitter, but it ain't all sweet. It ain't all blood and guts on here. Okay. Some stuff you want to know about in detail, go to her. Let me I'm gonna put it back up. Okay. If you want to know more about her personal share, go buy her book. Okay. And how can people get on your IG live? When is Lattes with Lisa?
It is every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. So for you, it's at noon. For Central Time, it's noon. Yeah. Every Tuesday. Now, sometimes I have a guest that I have to shift that time a little bit. So follow my Instagram, make sure your notifications are on, and you'll see my promos in my stories. I always post on Monday what time it is on Tuesday and who my guest is.
All right, so Tuesday.
You can hop on live, or you can go back to my Instagram page and you can click on any of them. They're all there. You can watch past episodes, or you can watch the replay after the fact.
ACES ambassador, author of the 9th Child, ministry leader, blogger, podcaster, mother, wife, friend.
Always.
ACES ambassador. I'm gonna say it again. ACES ambassador. Yeah, I'm gonna keep saying that because that's what we do in part. Lisa, much love to you, my sister, and I want to see you in these social media streets.
Yep.
Thank you for being part of the Trigger Warning Talk podcast family. You have a VIP. You are always welcome to come on here. Okay. Always. And whenever you want to talk about anything, especially the things that we cover, you just let me know, and we can switch roles.
Let's do it.
Okay, because you may not be able to talk about some of these things in other platforms and other spaces, but you always got an open mic here.
Right on. Thank you. Such a privilege. Truly, truly, truly honored to be in your space. Thank you for bringing me to your stage.
Say hi to the dogs, to the husband, to the family. I'm getting ready to do this missing person case. You go ahead and say I do. Peace and blessings.
All right. Peace. Blessings. God redeems everything. It's okay to struggle, not okay to struggle alone.
And that's it. We're going to switch over to the missing person case because y'all know that as Lisa goes and deals with life up in Calgary, and I know those dogs like, hey, and I heard those alarms going off. We always do a missing person case at the end of the episode. And so I'm going to pull up this case that I got off the Black and Missing Foundation's website. So just bear with me for a second here. We're going to cover a local case in Canada. We still have our friend, our ACES ambassador, Lisa M. LeBlanc, here with us because I really want to make these things personal. And we know, and as Lisa and I were discussing, there's a huge number, and Mrs. LP tells me about this stuff all the time. Like we sit there and binge watch missing persons stuff on YouTube. And she says, just like you informed me, there's a huge population of Indigenous folks that are missing in and throughout Canada. Okay. So what I did was I'll post this in the show notes. I went to canadasmissing.ca. CA stands for Canada. That's any domain that ends in 2-letter is going to represent that company, that country. I'm sorry. So yes. Canada's is .ca. So yes. Canada's, so CANADAS missing.ca is the link, and I'll post that. I just learned that November in Canada is National Runaway Prevention Month. And what it says is the National Center for Missing Persons and Unidentified Remains, or NCMPUR, of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, or the RCMP, is Canada's national center that assists law enforcement, medical examiners, and chief coroners with missing persons and unidentified remains investigations across the country of Canada. This website features profiles of missing persons and unidentified remains that have been published at the request of the primary investigator from either police, coroner, or medical examiner agency. The lead investigator determines when and whether to publish a case. See, nobody else is doing this stuff in their podcast unless they have a missing person podcast specifically. I'll continue. This website does not include a listing of profiles for all missing persons and unidentified remains in Canada. This site provides descriptions and images of missing persons along with details about where they were last seen. Please review the cases and learn how to submit a tip. Investigators review every tip that comes in, and even a small detail could be the key to bringing another child home. And it says warning, like we do the Trigger Talk, Trigger Want to Talk podcast warning. Images and information contained in this website may be disturbing to some viewers. Reasonable effort has been made to present cases of unidentified remains in a way that is not offensive or uncomfortable for the viewer or disrespectful of the deceased. So I'm going to pull up this case of a young woman. Let me see if I can find it again. Hold on a second here. So I found this case of this young lady. She's an adult. Her name is Samantha Mary Hebert, born in 1990, missing since April 1st, 2019. She's missing from Fort Alexander 3, Manitoba. Now, what province is that? Or is that the province?
Manitoba, that's directly north of Minnesota.
Okay, so that's directly north of Minnesota. So what are the provinces from left to right, starting from the Pacific to the Atlantic? So you have British Columbia,
Pacific, British Columbia, or BC.
Which is like Vancouver.
Vancouver, yeah. Okay. My province, Alberta, which is Calgary. And then Saskatchewan, Saskatoon, Regina are the main cities there. And then Manitoba, Winnipeg is the capital. And then Ontario, Toronto, and then Montreal. Toronto, yep. And then Quebec, and then New Brunswick, and then Nova Scotia, and Prince Edward Island, and north of there is Newfoundland, Labrador.
Okay. So I always thought it was 5, but it's 8.
And that's not even counting the Northern Territories. There's more now. So there's Northwestern Territories, which is Inuvik, Yellowknife is there. Yeah, which I am less well versed on. I would love to go up there and visit sometime. I have a friend who works remotely as a ultrasound tech that works at the most northern hospital on the planet.
The reason I'm bringing that up is because all of these provinces, think of them as states, if you would.
Yeah,
In the state.
it's the equivalent of states. We have one premier, which would be your version of not premier, but yeah, your version of governor that oversees the states. We have one leader that oversees each province.
So I bring that up because Canada is a huge area. Yeah. And there's a lot of Indigenous folks that are in Canada. Most people think it's just white folks. Okay, maybe
no, we have a huge multiracial,
very diverse.
Yeah, very diverse. In my church, in the campus of my church that I go to, there are less white people than any other race, which I love. There is still racism that exists here. It's just not racism against Black. It tends to be racism against Indigenous and sometimes Asian.
Okay. Let me read the information about her case. And again, we like to educate people on why we are covering these cases in particular, because 99% of the cases that we do cover for missing persons are Black and brown folks. So this is Canada's missing case reference is 202-0032-400. Again, 202-003-2400. On April 1st, 2019, Samantha Hebert was seen for the last time by her friends and family in the area of Powerview-Pine Falls, Manitoba. During the time of her disappearance, Samantha had been seen at the Sagkeeng, Sagkeeng.
Sagkeeng, yep.
Sagkeeng. See, that's why we needed a local. Sagkeeng Employment and Income Assistance Office. This case has one missing person, and again, she's missing from Fort Alexander 3, Manitoba. Again, her name is Samantha Mary Hebert, Hiebert. Her alias is her name. Okay, again, missing since April 1st, 2019. Her birthday year is 1990. She was 29 when she disappeared. Gender is female. I'm just reading from the website. Bio group, Indigenous, eye color brown, hair color brown, height, and they give it in centimeters and they give it in the metric, and they give it in what we call the United States.
Imperial.
Imperial. I was trying to remember. Okay.
Yeah, it's all good.
178 centimeters or 5 foot 10 inches. Mm-hmm. Her weight is 77 kilos, which is 170 pounds. Her build, slender/thin, complexion light/fair. Mm-hmm. She was wearing, she has a tattoo on her upper back of a butterfly. On her torso back has wings. She has another tat on her right hand, a little moon, and then she has 2 stars on her left hand. And then they have 4 additional pictures of Miss Hebert on the website in the gallery. And it says underneath the pictures, as of November 7th, which is today, 2025, there's a link to verify the current information and status. And it gives the website, which is www.canadasmissing.ca, or contact the agency below. So in the bottom part, it says, if you have any information on this case, please contact any of the following. Number 1, Manitoba Integrated Missing Persons Coordination Center. The number is 204-986-6250. Again, 204-986-6250. The website, the email address is WP as in Peter, S as in Sam dash missing persons at winnipeg.ca. And the reference number, again, or the reference case number is 202 0119192. Now that's a different number than the one I read earlier, but all this information will be under the main link that I'm going to put in the show notes. 2, Crime Stoppers. So there's Crime Stoppers in Canada. Okay.
Yes.
It's 1-800-222-TIPS or 8477. Or you can go online to www.canadiancrimestoppers.org/submit-a-tip. I don't know why that's in it twice, but that's what it is. But again, you'll see all this under the main link. And 3, you can send an email to the National Center for Missing Persons and Unidentified Remains and this is the email address, Canada's Missing DISPARUS Canada's Missing DISPARUS Canada at rcmp-grc.gc.ca. All of that stuff, you don't have to remember it. Okay. You just click on that link for Miss Hebert's missing persons case, and you'll see all that information that I just read out loud. Again, we want to highlight the importance of finding all missing persons, regardless of fill in the blank. And especially, and I want to say that, and I don't want people to take it in a form of a disrespect. Like I'm saying, this is more important than somebody else being missing. There's too many Black and brown folks that are missing that don't get highlighted and the media doesn't cover. We see the Gabby Patinos of the world. You know, we see a lot of these cases, if they're not Black and brown, they get heavily rotated on multiple platforms. So the Nancy Hollowells of the world. I never heard of Samantha Heath. And I'm sure you hadn't until today.
No, it's highly likely her face was never on the news. That's the thing about Indigenous women. They are underreported and underpromoted. The phrase that you said, I don't remember which person or whatever, but the phrase that you said that they can choose, they have the power to choose when and if to report these cases.
Yeah.
And Indigenous women, they often don't make the cut. If it's a little, I'm so sorry, but I'm going to go there, LP. If it's a little white girl, it is all over the news and everybody's phone lights up with an Amber Alert.
You know what?
If it's an Indigenous girl, we don't hear about it, and that's not okay.
I don't want you to have, you don't take that back. You don't need no apology for that, because again, this is just truth. You know, people don't have to like it. Okay. Let me say this. If you don't like what we're talking about, you're more than welcome, any listener and or viewer, to go to any of the other million podcast platforms that are out there in podcast world. We are very intentional. This is why when Mrs. LP and I sat down and said we wanted to create a podcast, I said, I want to do something that no other podcast in podcast world is doing, from a first responder perspective. And because I want to be able to talk to other first responders, because we don't get training. I've had one training on trafficking, just trafficking, in 17 years. I'll tell you the story. And I've said this before on other platforms. It was 2019. I'm at the firehouse. Now, my fire department wanted you to be dual trained and certified as a paramedic and a firefighter. And there was 10 of us in this room. We had just worked. My fire department, we did 48-hour shifts. You did 2 days on, 4 days off. And so, and I was on C shift. So it's A, B, and C shift. So we had just started our C shift. We were cleaning up the firehouse, because every morning there's a cleanup of the whole firehouse. Okay. And this is especially on the first day of your shift, because you're swapping out from the shift before you. Took us about an hour to do all that. It was 10 of us in the room from the privates, because we use a military ranking. So you start off as a private, then you become an officer, lieutenant, captain, then you have your battalion chiefs, deputy chief, and then the fire chief. Okay. So we didn't have the fire chief there, but it was a battalion chief and then everybody else. So it was about 10 of us in this room. They brought in a trafficking expert who did a 90-minute PowerPoint presentation, Lisa. And I'm telling you, at the end, he was like, anybody got any questions? I did like this. I raised both hands up. And everybody did that. They was like, they're going to pick. Because I don't sit there like a bump on. If I'm doing a training, I'm not going to be like, okay, well, you know, I might be thinking in my head, but I, as a clinician and a practitioner, if you just sit there like a bump on a log, you may do something or not do something that could interfere with your responsibilities as a mandated reporter.
100%.
And so I raised both hands, and he was like, okay, because, you know, we just gave last name. He's like, all right, Penton, what? I said, can you go back to slide 90? Because it was a couple of bullet points on there that I wanted him to clarify. So he did that. He said, okay, what's your other question? And I looked at everybody. I just turned around. I said, there's 10 of us in this room. There's probably over 1,000. And I said this. I said, man, hours of experience in this room. And there were female fire staff in there too, firefighter minutes. I said, how many of us have gone on the call and our antennas went up? Our spidey sense started tingling. We had something in our gut was saying, hey, that ain't right. I went in. I remember a time where I went into a house for a woman who had called 911 and said she had some arm pain and an arm injury. And I go in there and I noticed that there was a room right off the front door and there was a bedroom and it had a padlock on the outside of the door. It wasn't a storage room. It was a padlock on the outside of the door.
Oh, ding, 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 ding.
Now, internally, it was ding, 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 but I was ignorant to that, but something didn't seem right. And even with her, she was kind of like, the guy wouldn't let her talk. Sir, I'm interviewing her because I need to know from her own mouth what's going on. You can't tell me if she's in pain. There's things that you're not going to be able to tell me. And I almost said, why are you talking for her? The other thing is, I need to judge her mental status because I may ask her a question, hey man, what's your name? And says that. What? It says that's a sign that she might be having a stroke.
Yeah.
Okay. Please, sir, be quiet, or I'm gonna have to ask you to step outside. We had the cops there too. So I kind of looked at him, I looked at the cop, and I ain't say nothing else, and I started talking to her. So he shut up. But it was something hinky about that whole situation. Okay. And I never followed up on the thing or whatever. And I never went back to the house or what have you. But if I had known then what I learned that day, and I said, I know y'all have had some calls that mirrored or were similar. Everybody starts sharing. Yeah. Everybody and their mama in that room started sharing. Yeah, you know, that's what, and remember, and they would start, because some of them had been working together for years. I was the rookie. They was like, yeah, remember we was on that call 2 years ago. We was and it's like, you start seeing people turning because people, we were black. Okay, there was a couple white folks in there. You start seeing them turn a few shades lighter. Yeah. And I was like, damn. I had been in EMS since 2007. I retired in 2020. That was the first time I had ever had a trafficking class. Wow. Didn't have one before and didn't have one by the time, another one after I retired. And I said, how many people in this room have had a training class outside of today on trafficking? Nobody raised their hands.
That's awful that you were that underserved, that our first responders are that undereducated and that undersupported and that underserved.
I'm telling you, Lisa, this is
wow.
It's in first responder land. So I'm going to end with this. I want to thank you so much for being part of this podcast. We can talk every day and twice on Sunday. Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
I have no problem with that. Let me say this in closing. Be always aware of your surroundings. Take a CPR first aid, stop the bleed class. Situational awareness is always important. Just like if you've been on a plane, what do the flight attendants say when the plane is taxiing before it hits the runway? In the event of a loss in cabin pressure, those oxygen masks may drop ahead of you. Put your mask on first before you help somebody else. Never take your eye off the ball. You're the ball.
Yep.
Thank you, Lisa. For Mrs. LP, I want to say like, subscribe, and follow our podcast. LP out.